I want to begin in John chapter 10. I want to read for you verse 20 because I want you to see their accusation. And the accusation sounds like this. Many of them said he has a demon and he is mad. Some translations say he is insane. Some translations say he is deluded. Some translations say he is crazy. No matter how you translate it, mad, deluded, insane, and crazy ain't good. Right? None of you want to be mad, deluded, insane, or crazy. And what do they accuse Jesus of? Mad, deluded, insane, and crazy. But what do they really accuse Jesus of in verse 20? He has a demon. There's the accusation. So my exploration tonight is, what did Jesus have to say to get them to the place that they would say he has a demon, he's demon possessed? And I would say, based upon the fact that if you'll just glance, maybe you're looking at a hard copy, and if you are, there's a good chance that the words are written in red. And if you look at your hard copy and just glance backward, most of chapter 10 is written in red up till this point, which means that most everything in those first 20 verses are Jesus talking, which tells me that it's not how Jesus acted that made him think he was demon-possessed. It's what Jesus said that made them think he was demon-possessed. So guess what we're going to do tonight? We're going to investigate what is it that Jesus said that led to the accusation he's demon-possessed, because this must be, I don't think I'm overstating this, this must be world-changing stuff. I mean, whatever's right here in John 10, it's so big that the religious world of Jesus' day would go, only a demon would say that. That's insanity. That can't be the God we know. That can't be the God we serve. So let's start from the top with Jesus. John chapter 10 verse 1, and I'm going to warn you that for the first 6 verses, I'm going to give you no commentary. All right? We're just going to talk as Jesus talked. And I'm going to show you why we're not going to give any commentary. Most assuredly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, that same is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. And when he brings out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. Yet they will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this illustration, but they did not understand the things which he spoke to them. I stop here because according to the author, John, verse 6 says, written in black, Jesus is no longer talking, but the narrator, John, tells us that no one that Jesus spoke to in the first 5 verses had any idea what he was talking about. Okay? So, because of that, Jesus turns around in verse 7 and explains himself. So here's how I want to handle this. Who is Paul White to stand up here tonight at this church and bother to try to explain Jesus' first 5 verses when no one 2,000 years ago had any idea what Jesus was talking about in those first 5 verses? So Jesus himself gives him his own commentary on his own first 5 verses. So we're going to just work our way right on into verse 7, where Jesus starts an audio commentary on his first 5 verses of John 10. Confused yet? I hope not. I hope I said that just right. Let's don't bother with the first 5 verses. Let's let Jesus explain the first 5 verses. And where do we do that? John chapter 10, verse 7. Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. Okay, time out. All you got to do from here on down is take everything Jesus says and go plug it back into the first 5 verses. Jesus is giving you his own course in how to interpret his teaching. Because here's what it said in verse 1. I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up another way, is a thief and a robber. Verse 7, I say to you, I'm the door. Okay, so Jesus has put himself into the story and said, I am the door, which means that if you're going to come in, you're going to come in through the door named Jesus. Well, my great question is, if you're going to come in where? Because how we preach this is, if you're going to get into heaven, you're going to get in through Jesus. Is that what Jesus said? No. Okay, well that tells me that maybe we should stop teaching this as a script. If you want this to be about heaven, fine, but don't put words into Jesus' mouth. Fair enough? You want this to be about heaven? Great. But don't proclaim it as if that's how Jesus taught it, Because you actually have a commentary in John 10 of what Jesus was teaching. You don't have to guess. You actually have Jesus telling you, here's what I mean when I say what I say. And let me warn you, what he means when he says what he says made him think he was demon-possessed. We're all on the same page. We're just slow working our way into this. Just let Jesus' words sort of fall out there by themselves. And so what's the first thing you learn about the story? Christ is the door. Whatever's on the other side of the door, you're not getting that unless you come in through Jesus. The other side of the door then must really matter. And so Jesus proclaims himself to be the door. Verse 8, all who ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. Let me say that again. All who ever came before me not were thieves and robbers. Present tense verb in the Greek. All who ever came before me are currently thieves and robbers. Everyone who came before me. Who came before Jesus? All these guys. See this part right here, this big old fat part we call the Old Testament? All of them came before Jesus. Is all? We did a little bit of this last night. Let's try it again. Does all mean all? Okay, so if all that came before me are thieves and robbers, not just were thieves and robbers, but are currently thieving you and robbing you, then everybody not named Jesus has an agenda in your life. Everybody not named Jesus has something to steal from you. Your money, your hopes, your dreams, your passions, your glory, your stuff, your innocence, whatever. I'm not making an accusation. I'm just quoting Jesus. Everybody else, he goes, will rob you. Everybody else will steal from you. Guess who qualifies as some of the robbers and the thieves? There you go, you got it. Everybody robbing and thieving if they're not named Jesus. All right, it's so much better when you're in the all and it's not them. Doesn't it just, you might as well just embrace it. Just put it on like a warm blanket and you go, all means all, not all means some of those guys out there I disagree with. Or some of those religious people I don't like. Can you see why he's on his way to being called demon-possessed? Because ain't nobody in the world wants to be a thief and a robber that don't think they're a thief and a robber. Don't you accuse me of something I'm not guilty of. If I didn't do it, I'm not going to stand right here and have you accuse me of that. And Jesus has opened up with, everybody not named me is a thief and a robber, and they're robbing you of something in your life.